A lot of it had to do with punishment, I would say. I was getting a lot of punishment for just my actions.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
When did you find the Lord?
Uh, this was, wow. It was 2022. And this was early 2022. And I feel like the whole entire year of 2021 was when God was really starting to reveal himself towards me. Yeah, it was a lot. I would definitely say I was going through a lot of challenges, a lot of battles. I was just battling whatever God had to tell me, basically. Early 2021, I was just going through, I guess, severance with friendships and addictions and, strongholds, chains that were just too hard to break off. And just in the midst of, I guess, breaking it off, I prayed to God, and I would pray to God all the time, but I would never actually, I guess, do what I'll pray for. So I'll pray for him, but I would still end up in the same situation. And one night when I was praying, the Lord, or at least I heard a voice tell me, this time when you pray, do and be what you prayed for. And more than less, it's just meaning be in the position that you would have to be to receive the blessing or receive an answer to your prayer. And I did it. And in that time, all I felt was peace.
Did that affect relationships, routines, habits that you had?
Oh, yeah, yeah. So I feel like this is where like obedience comes in, because I never even knew that that's what I was doing. I was just praying. And then once again, when I heard that voice, it was like, hey, this time just be in position for your prayer. I was like, okay, let me do it. And the second I started obeying that voice, which now that I do know it's God, a lot of friendships changed, a lot of relationships, a lot of addictions are gone. People look at you differently, but I believe that inside of my life, whatever God has taken away, I didn't need it. And whatever He's put together, it was destined for it to be.
And what would you say God has saved you from?
Addiction, lust, sexual immorality, lying, people pleasing, um, a lot, a lot. I think He's also saved me from myself. I think that's what was a big thing there for me, was that I would think that things like marijuana would be a good outlet, or just talking to many women, or talking to, a lot of people who just seem cool and stuff like that. I thought that that was all a good outlet to, I guess, just feel wanted. And I think that's what it was as well. I mean, I'm a big little brother. So I would say, like, I'm a little bro at the heart. But I guess a question that I always asked myself younger, and then it grew into being almost like a chain that was hard to break off, was, why does nobody like me? And as I got older and I realized that there's ways to be liked, I started to fall into all of that. And that's what kind of brought me into like people pleasing, craving external validation, you know, once again, like drug addiction, um, lying just to make sure that everybody's happy, and wanting to have friends. And I mean, some people who used to know I used to be a public figure, but in a different way, right? I used to do music. I feel like the Lord has saved me from even just living a double life, right? There's so much that I thought that I could do out of my own power. And I just believe that the Lord has saved me even from that question that I had, which was, once again, why does nobody like me? And the truth of the matter is that I wasn't being who I was truly made to be. There's truly people who do love you, but it's hard for them to love you when you're not being who you're sent to be.
And what did you feel during your encounter with God?
Good question. Peace. I felt peace. I felt numb, but in a good way. I felt numb to the emotions that would make me feel bad. But all of the emotions that were good, and the feeling that I could get that was good, like the peace, the joy, the happiness, it was exaggerated. And this is the first time I ever felt true happiness without having to take any substances or be in the act of something that would make me feel guilty later. This was literally just through me just making the right decision. And I'll be honest, like, even between the severance of relationships and some, friendships that I had for a long time, or trauma bonds and stuff like that, it was really hard to get rid of those in that time where, in my mind and in my heart, I felt, no, I can't do this. We all ask questions, like, we all know that God is here. We ask questions like, God, why? God, I can't do it, and I felt like that. And that's kind of the questions I was asking. And when I actually got to it, that's when, me being obedient, I just felt a huge wave of just peace. And once again, I just felt like I was free from what hurt me and what continued to hurt me for so long.
I want to elaborate on that last question though.
Yeah, go ahead. You can ask more.
And what were the difficulties that you felt?
Whew.
I have to get it.
Yeah. No, you're right. So, in all honesty to you, when I first came about, 'cause I don't want to just blame just one relationship that was bad. I feel like almost all of them that I was in before, there was wrong. I didn't have God in it. God wasn't at the center. But to the one that was there, to where I guess it led me into freedom with the Lord, there was that temptation of people pleasing, because that temptation of, okay, I know this isn't going to make you happy, like, I know you're going to hate me for this. It was hard because, once again, right in that moment, it was like God was like, hey, you have to tell him. You have to say it. And in my mind, I'm like, God, are you sure? Are you serious? And he's like, yes. And being through that much pain at that point, I was like, all right, God, if you say so, if you say so. But even with that being said, right, there's a temptation of that. There's, when the Lord told me, and you kind of remember, I don't want to break your character, but when the Lord told me that, I should stop smoking weed, right? There was temptation. There was a lot of people around me who it's very easy to and just grab it. There's temptation to that. There's, the lonely nights in bed, and you believe that you don't have any love, and there's a temptation to just go and open up the website, right? Just through the Lord's love, right? Prayer, and just remembering that God created me for a purpose, for a reason, that he has somebody out there who loves me. He has himself who loves me as well. He's created me in love overall, because once again, he's made me so complex and unique, right? And he's done it for all of us. And like, I never felt that kind of love, because it's like, I always felt like everything that I did was like a problem to other people. Everybody hated me. Like, whatever I would do, like, I say something like, oh my gosh, like, get this guy to be quiet, And yeah, this was the first time that I just felt like everything that I had to say, like, there's no holding it back, and not in a bad way. Like, of course, we got to discern. We got to, we have to have a tight rein on our tongue, as it says in the Bible. But more than less, just like the love that I had to give, and the uniqueness to myself. The fact that some things that I would say, or some jokes I would say, people wouldn't laugh at. I didn't even care anymore. And that was just mainly because I was starting to just accept the fact that God made me the way that I am for a reason. Not everybody needs to like it, but God loves it. Right? So, yeah.
Definitely not an easy walk.
For sure.
All the spiritual warfare that you go through.
Yep.
What did you struggle with when coming to God?
Myself. I think that's what I struggled with the most.
Like mental?
Nah, I think more so just like who's in control. That's something that we continuously have to die to every single day, is remembering that we can't do it ourselves. But I think that's something that I struggled with a lot when coming to God, because I would fight myself. Even like I said at the beginning, 2021, I was just getting a whole lot of revelation from God. And I'll be honest, for a long time, I knew it. I knew that I knew somebody was talking to me. I didn't want to accept the fact that it was God, because I feel like a lot of us, I feel like we respect God so much. Some people, they don't want to get close to God or accept God or claim God, because
Guilty.
we don't want to disrespect him. Right. So, and that's mainly what it is that we're more so accustomed to what we already do on a day-to-day basis. So as long as we don't go, oh, hallelujah, God, I love you, this and that, then we don't feel as bad when we go and backslide and do all of that other stuff, right? And that's kind of what it was for me, is that whole year, I just didn't want to accept the fact that what I was doing and I was doing bad things and whatever it is, I didn't want to accept the fact that it was God telling me that, because the second I do, then that's where the real conviction comes in. That's where the real guilt and everything comes in, because once again, and I already felt guilty. I'll be honest, I did, but I just didn't want to feel like I was disrespecting God. I felt like I was holding myself back from God because I didn't want to disrespect him. And like I knew at some point, if I were to come to the Lord, that I would have to guarantee, you know, and that's what God will do. God will chasten us, right? He'll punish us, but with love, right? It's discipline, right? He's putting us in order, and he's putting us into a better shape, you know. We have those times where we made the wrong decision and we have to face the consequences. And I believe that God doesn't let us walk around that or let us not have that, because without any consequences for our actions, why would we change? So that's mainly what it was. I really fought myself a lot when coming to God. And that's literally what it is. I feel like we all do. We fight ourselves. We sometimes walk in our own belief rather than just what God wants for us. Truly, he's a creator of everything. He's a creator of our past and our future, right? And I feel like just because we've lived so much time without submitting to God, especially at the beginning, it's very hard to just submit to God, because I mean, we went our whole entire life before that not going off of our own knowledge. But once again, true submission is true submission. We can't walk around that. The second you give it up to God and you truly love him, you truly trust him, then you have to let him take the driver's seat. So it took some time. I mean, you've seen a bit of it. And once again, that's as you grow with God and as God begins to clean you, you trust him more, and he'll take you out of a lot of things, and you can trust him, right? He's a really, 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 really good father.
And what drives you to do what you do today?
It's my testimony, where I come from, right? I used to rap. I used to chase clout. I used to chase girls. I used to chase attention. I used to be addicted to things, right? I used to love things that weren't good for me, right? And mainly that's what it is I don't want to discredit the people who were great influences inside of my life, but I feel like there's also a lot of not so great influences in my life. And they were a lot closer than the other, good influences were. And I didn't have as much access to them growing up. And I believe that was mainly the reason why I ended up falling down the route that I did. But once again, we're all born in a life of sin. So it's hard for us to walk around that, especially without having a real encounter or relationship with the Lord. And through that, once I received revelation and just really took a step back and looked at everything that I went through, just through the lack of guidance, the lack of mentorship, the lack of, just having somebody around who's actually willing to just die to their own flesh and, be a good example, be a good person. We get a lot more of that because we have social media and stuff like that nowadays. But on the next side of social media, on the next side of the algorithm, there's people who aren't doing great things. And just to open that up, because I realized that even when I was doing like rapping and I was influencing in some form of way, I realized that there was a lot of people who truly loved me, who truly cared about me, who really looked up to me, who ended up taking on some of those demons. And, they ended up following in my footsteps. And I just realized at some point that my influence that I was using, it was being used for the wrong reasons. The people who were around me following me, they were expecting me to just be some super cool guy as to what the world would say. Lots of money, lots of girls. Let's go smoke. Let's do this. Let's do that. And that's just not how you live life. And God just revealed to me, that not only do I have to be a good influence, but if I am somebody who can influence people, how am I doing it? And I can't just leave everybody, with what I've gave them, right? And I know that there's a lot more than just the people that I've known or the people who I've already influenced in some form of way, but there's also a lot of souls that do need to be saved. from the same exact things that we all go through. And I believe that that's just the way that God's been using me, that I've realized that I am somebody who can influence somebody. But now it's just the way that I do it.
And to close it up, I know you already kind of talked about there being signs, but like elaborate on those signs. I obviously know that you said that you heard a voice,
Yeah.
but like elaborate on other signs.
Okay. So yeah, so there's there's a lot of signs, but I would say big signs for me would be for instance, like when I was going through a really bad relationship per se, a lot of things would break. A lot of things would be just lost out of nowhere, or like finances would just get horrible just based off my actions. And that was one thing because I always felt inside of my heart that I don't like losing things. I really don't. I don't like losing things. I don't like breaking things. And I also don't like the feeling of like rage. And I felt like I had a lot of that at that point. And a lot of times when I would just be, driving by myself or in a room by myself, I'll think back to just a time that like I spent in rage, fits of rage, being upset, using my words the way that I didn't want to. And those were signs for me to get away. In terms of even just being around the wrong crowd, the wrong people, the wrong environments. I mean, we all know about the music industry nowadays. It's not really the greatest depending on what side you're on. Um, and that also led me to, especially just being out with a lot of people, just trying to be cool and stuff like that. I mean, another sign was me just having like, myself injured. Um, not due to playing any sports or anything, but just being in a club. That was a sign that, in all honesty, not to say that I'm afraid of it, but I don't want that to happen to me. Why? People coming to you and telling you that your life is made for more, right? And just through those signs of, a lot of it had to do with punishment, I would say. I was getting a lot of punishment for just my actions, being addicted to, some form of drugs and substances and stuff like that. I'll forget things easy. And that was another sign for me. Hey, you got to stop. Even sexual immorality, right? Being just around so many women, I would say. At some point, you start to realize that you don't even really love anything, right? You're just chasing an emotion or a feeling. That was another sign for me that by the time that you're done, you don't even want to spend time with those people, So there's so much to the signs that I would get. And I think a lot to which those signs were is also just not feeling great in my heart, not feeling great in my gut. When I would get to, specific places, I'll get a gut wrenching feeling that I don't want to be here. And it's hard to wake up to that. And I believe a lot of us get that sometimes, where we get somewhere and we get that gut wrenching feeling like, why am I here again? Last time I was here, this happened and that happened. And we don't really listen to it enough, at least, right? So that's mainly those signs that I do believe that I faced. I feel like there's so much more, but it's just hard to really get it off. But once again, it was punishment. I wasn't happy, and I believe in the times that I would pray, and the time that I would meditate and look back at my situations and just say, "Hey, God, I just want to be happy." All of my actions would lead to me being unhappy, but that comes with the right self-evaluation and self-regulation. I didn't learn that early on in my life. I learned it too late. I can't say too late, but I learned it at some point.
And what words of encouragement would you give to somebody who's starting their walk with God, who's on their walk with God, like just overall?
Be honest. Be honest and truly love the life that you have and cherish it. We don't get to choose how long we're here. And there's so much to which we can say that we want inside of this life, that we can desire inside of this life, but it never comes through us doing the wrong things or the things that won't actually lead to what we want or what we've been praying for. If you truly pray for peace and kindness and happiness and things like that, then get into environments that produce that truly. And there's no such thing as being in a chaotic environment and being peaceful. There's no such thing as being in a place that's damaged you and calling that peace or love. Self-healing, self-regulation, meditation, prayer. These things aren't just said because people just say, hey, this is what you have to do. We're the OGs, we're just giving this game down. No, this is truly what's going to help you understand and navigate what's next for you and whatever God has for you. Lastly, I would say, in terms of just like words of encouragement, keep the faith. Whatever you believed in to start, whatever you thought would have been your way, your route, whatever it is, don't stop believing in that for that to happen. Somebody's hurt you or a situation has hurt you, but your intentions were pure and you truly want pure and true and honest love at the heart and the core. Don't lose the faith. Go to God about it. Let him provide it to you. And for anything else, whether it be a career, friendships, even a relationship with yourself or a relationship with God, you have to be willing to forgive yourself in order for you to truly receive God's forgiveness as well. God forgives us, so doesn't really make too much sense that we don't forgive ourselves. Yeah, we done?
Yeah.
All right, we out.